Pontiac built some serious performance machines over the years, and today we're taking a look at 10 cool elements that made Pontiac a high-performance division of GM. Pontiac built some great factory racing engines, like the Super Duty 421 in 62 and 63. This beast was a purpose-built drag race plant loaded with a forged crank, forged pistons, forged rods, and a heavy-duty oiling system with an 8-quart oil pan. A 308-degree, 320-degree intake and exhaust duration cam with solid lifters, and 68cc 11-to-1 compression large valve cylinder heads move tons of air through the dual Carter 4-barrel carburetors. The result? Mid-12-second quarter-mile times in race-prep Catalinas, or high 11s in lightweight FX-class Tempests, like this one driven by Stan Antlocer. The SD421 paved the way for more than a decade of high-performance Pontiac V8s. Next up, the new for 1969 Pontiac Trans Am, a car named after the super popular road racing series with the same name. And to commemorate the series, Pontiac built an awesome Firebird loaded up with performance goodies and style for miles. But perhaps the pinnacle of Pontiac rarities are the 1969 Trans Am convertibles, as the total production can be counted on one hand with a few toes. Only 8 of these stunning Tyrol blue striped cameo white TA drop tops were ever built, all with Pontiac Ram Air 3400 V8s, 4 with 4-speed manual transmissions and 4 with automatics. Amazingly, today all 8 are accounted for, and we've shown them all here on Muscle Car of the Week. Next, we've got a really rare option that's a lot of fun, the Humbler exhaust. This was a remote-controlled muffler, factory installed on less than 140 1970 GTOs, and it gave your goat a split personality when you wanted to turn it up.
Open wide. Can't get no one talking back. It's the Humbler.
Like at the burger stand, apparently. And this actual GTO from the commercial is currently being restored for an unveiling at the 2020 Muscle Car and Corvette National Show in Chicago. Too cool. While many people believed 1973 and 1974 were the downward spiral of muscle car performance, Pontiac held on with a very special engine, the 1973 and 74 Super Duty 455. SD455s were only available in 73 and 74 Formula Firebird and Firebird Trans Ams, and featured specs normally associated with custom-built race engines. Starting with a reinforced 4-bolt block, the SD455's bottom end spun a specially treated nodular iron crank, forged rods and pistons, but a low 8.4-to-1 compression ratio thanks to the unleaded gas. But a high-lift, long-duration cam allowed the Ram Air 4-like cylinder heads to do their thing, and this stout plant still made 290 horsepower in the dismal days of the early mid-1970s. And that was a net horsepower number, not gross like in the 60s. But tell you what, if you bump that compression up a bit, tap into the factory dry sump oiling system, and soon you had a high-powered machine that was strong enough to take whatever you could throw at it. Even the stock low-compression SD455 Trans Ams ran low 14s through 308 rear gears on stock tires. Impressive, even for late 60s times. Our next cool Pontiac trait is probably the most common on this list, the limited slip Safe T-Track rear differential. While a differential might not seem that exciting, the Safe T-Track was designed to provide traction to the opposite wheel if one started slipping in mud or loose gravel. But it also provided for two-legged traction when installed behind high-horsepower Pontiac V8s. In 1956, Pontiac division head Bunky Knudsen famously said, "You can sell a young man's car to an old man, but you can't sell an old man's car to a young man." At that point, the mission was clear. Turn Pontiac into a young man's car division and do it with speed and style. The result was the amazing machine we see here, the new for 1957 Pontiac Bonneville, and all 630 57 Bonneville convertibles were powered by an advanced 347 cubic inch V8 fed by mechanical fuel injection, very similar to the Rochester unit used by Chevrolet. Pontiac didn't publish the numbers, but they claimed over 300 horsepower, enough to push this big sled to 60 miles an hour in just over 8 seconds. And at the same time, Pontiac started setting NASCAR records with engine tuned by legends like Smokey Yunick during a time when racing was banned by GM. So now you have looks, speed, and rebellion. And what young car buyer doesn't like that? We couldn't compile a list of cool things Pontiac without mentioning 3 little letters that helped start the muscle car craze: GTO. The GTO arrived on the scene in '64 as a hopped-up Tempest with a hot 389 and a 4-speed transmission, and people went nuts for them. Thanks to great marketing like the Ronnie and the Daytona's number 12 single Little GTO, sales were hot with style and performance to set you free. The GTO is a benchmark muscle car, raising the bar each year until high insurance premiums, the dawn of unleaded fuel, and emission standards stomped out V8 performance cars in the early 1970s. Next up, we're celebrating the iconic Pontiac hood tachometer. This cool feature debuted in 1967 and allowed the driver to keep the eyes on the road while power shifting a Firebird or GTO to victory without over-revving the beast along the way. Surprisingly, not many other automakers installed hood tachs, with Buick and AMC being a couple of exceptions, but you could get an aftermarket Dixco unit for any car you wanted. At any rate, the early heads-up display is super cool. Pontiac realized that buyers wanted to personalize their rides early on, and when they saw so many of their steel wheels and hubcaps being ditched for aluminum and mag wheels, well, they did something about it with the introduction of the iconic Rally 2 wheel. These new shoes offered style similar to the aluminum aftermarket wheels, but with the strength and reliability of an OE-level steel wheel, and proved to be insanely popular on all kinds of Pontiac muscle cars. They were initially offered in 14 by 6 inch sizing, but grew wider and into 15-inch versions for the 1970 Trans Am. Pontiac stylists nailed it with the Rally 2, and they still look great today. And finally, when it comes to legendary muscle car power plants, the Pontiac Ram Air 4 is at the top of the pile. Starting with a 4-bolt 10.5-to-1 compression 400 cubic inch V8, the Ram Air 4 featured the computer-designed 041 camshaft, which boasted a long duration spec of 308 degrees on the intake side and 320 degrees for exhaust, helping the Ram Air 4 to breathe freely. Longer 165-to-1 rocker arms moved even more air through the big valves. Pontiac Ram Air 4 heads were special, with taller intake ports and round exhaust ports, a tighter combustion chamber designed to suck in lots of air and fuel and squeeze out tons of power. They had a sound all their own and cranked out 370 horsepower and 445 pound-feet of torque in 1970. And just listen to that idle. Yeah. We hope you enjoyed our look at 10 really cool Pontiac high-performance elements featured on cars from the Brothers collection. If you like this kind of thing, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you next time with more cool stuff on Muscle Car of the Week.